Okay. As we said in the fighter pilot world, fights on. All right, as a quick review, mayoral duties. I have the 3 candidates for mayor up here. I was told there's a 4th. Somehow we didn't connect with them to be here tonight, and I apologize to that candidate. It was not by design that they weren't invited to be here. The mayoral duties for Denton, they lead the city council meetings and set the agendas. They vote on all matters, including tiebreakers. So they're a voting member of the city council, not a supermajority or a king or anything like that. Just a voting member. Okay. They represent the city at official and civic events. They guide long-term planning, growth, land use, and infrastructure. Sign contracts, ordinance, and bonds. Declare local emergencies when needed, and participate in key appointments, as in city manager, city attorney, city secretary. They do that all for a salary of $89,000 a year. Is that true, Mayor Husser?
89,000-ish.
Okay. The man is a politician. All right, we're getting ready to get started. So, starting here with Mr. Beck, in 2 minutes, tell us about yourself, why you're running, and what is your most important issue, and how you work to solve it.
No, I really appreciate the Robson Republican Club having us all out here and getting the chance to have that discussion. I also want to particularly give a shout out to Tom, working with some of the miscommunications that we had earlier. I was a piece of that as well, and so the fact that everyone was able to work with everyone and make sure that we all were able to come and have the dialogue that we're having tonight. I appreciate the flexibility that everyone showed, and to my opponents as well. I appreciate their flexibility. One of the things, before I start on the best to answer the question, that I really want to remind folks of and sort of I take pride in, is there's been a sort of reputation in some of the councilors that they, especially the ones in the north, I represent District 2, and that there hadn't been sort of this tone and tenor of, despite agreement or disagreement, of making sure that you represent the entire city and your district, and that you come out and you have those conversations. And sometimes they're tough and prickly. And one of the things that I've always done for 5 years is come down here to Robson, whether I've been talking to this club, whether I've been talking to your blue cousins, whether I've been working on economic development. I've prided myself in coming down and having that conversation. And it's particularly germane because the folks here are some of the most politically active neighborhoods in the entire city, and I appreciate that. So why am I running for mayor? I'm running for mayor because we know that, we all agree that Denton should be more affordable, more resilient, more connected. We're a little bit tired of the business as usual and powerful interests sort of controlling our destiny. We believe the community should have a larger role and say in that. I think most of you that know me know that I'm a research biologist. I've been have a 37-year career in computational biochemistry and biophysics. I model proteins and work for TW, retired out of UT Austin. With that kind of approach, oops, I'm out of time. That was quick.
I'm going to redirect you to the question, what is your biggest issue and what will you do to solve it?
I appreciate the flexibility on that. My biggest issue for going forward, and I hope we give them extra time as well, is affordability. I think that's one of the key issues that I'll be focusing on in all my terms as mayor is working on affordability. And I think for this neighborhood in particular, the issue that will be most germane is utility rates and keeping those so that the largest users pay the largest amounts.
Thanks so much. I'm really pleased to be here tonight. My name is Angela Brewer. I'm running for mayor of Denton. I'm a hometown girl. I grew up in Denton, Texas, and I'm now raising my 10-year-old in my hometown, hoping that he's going to go to my favorite Denton high school, be a Bronco, at someday in the not-too-distant future. I am a small business owner. I own a travel business, and I work with families to plan their vacations. I'm actually teaching a course out here this summer for all these, so come take my class. It's going to be really fun about planning trips. And so I'm a small business owner, I'm a mom, and I am an educator. I teach at UT as an adjunct professor in communication. I was really spending a lot of last year thinking about what I wanted to do as far as my service to my community. I go to the First United Methodist Church in downtown Denton, and I have some pastors at my church who like to preach just about every Sunday about the fact that God has given you gifts, and it is your responsibility to use those gifts to serve your community and make the world around you a better place. And it really sits with me every Sunday when I'm there and I hear that message. And so I was thinking about it a lot last year, like what are my gifts exactly, and where will they play the best role to serve my community? So, like I said, I'm a communication professor, specifically in areas of small group communication, conflict management, and listening are some of my favorite classes to teach over at UNT. And when I thought about that particular set of gifts and skill sets that I bring, I thought City Council was the place for me, because that's a group of folks who need some small group communication help, some better listening skills, and definitely some conflict management. So that's what I'm wanting to bring into the Denton City Council. That's why I'm running for mayor. I want to bring those skills to serve my community and make Denton a better place. Like I said, I grew up in Denton. It's my hometown. I love Denton deeply. I don't want to see Denton turn into Frisco or Salina or Prosper. I think if I keep talking, I get to that rebuttal moment, right?
You're gonna get a rebuttal. What's your biggest issue and what will you do to solve it?
Just start my 30 seconds over again. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to use that extra time because I didn't get to that last issue about what's the number one issue. I really am interested in saving Denton's soul, and I think we do that through economic development. That we need to really lean into our locally owned businesses, help local owned businesses grow, have small businesses that are just 2 or 3 employees become 3, 4, 5 employees, have micro businesses like mine, where I'm the only employee of my business, become a larger business so that I can hire people into my business. And that will help us increase our tax base, increase revenue coming in, and then hopefully be able to lower taxes.
Tell us about yourself while you're running, and please include your biggest issue and what you'll do to solve it. All in 2 minutes.
Well, I thought I could get an extra minute by going over 2 minutes and then getting, so don't start my time yet. No, I'm just kidding. My name is Chris Watts. I'm running for mayor of the city of Denton. ChrisWatts.com, ChrisWattsDenton.com. Go check out my track record. I served as your mayor from 2014 to 2020, and I've served this community for over 10 years as a representative, both as a mayor and both as an individual district rep, and both also as an at-large rep. I've been representing this from the beginning of 2007, this community. We've had some interesting fights during that time. But I just want to say, experience matters. I've sat in the seat, I can come in day one, and I have a relationship with the staff. I've worked with some of the council members that are on there. I know pretty much most of the council members that are running, some better than others. And what we've got to do, because Denton's sort of in a rut. You know, last year's budget, the utility costs are going up. When I was mayor, we lowered the tax rate by 10 cents. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot. We got a program for homeless veterans to put them in housing. We started the program to start working on the problems with the unsheltered and how can we help them better obtain sustainability in housing. I'm running to bring that type of leadership again to the council. It's been tough over the last 5 years. We haven't really got a whole lot done. And I bring that experience, I bring that ability and proven track record to collaborate with other council members, to collaborate with the community, to really solve the issues before our city. Talk is pretty cheap, quite honestly. Actions speak louder than words. So I'm going to go ahead and stay within the rules. I got 30 seconds. What are my most important issues?
Yes.
Most important issues are affordability. Most important issues bringing a culture to council of collaboration, of getting things done, focusing back on core services, transparency, financial accountability. We had a projected $14 million budget deficit last summer. How did we get there? We always have to balance the budget because of state law. Smart growth. What are we doing with all the apartments? We have an answer to that. We have the data for that. So we'll talk more about that later. So thank you very much.
Yes, we will. Thank you. Ms. Brewer, the next question is to you, and I'll remind you, you now only have 1.5 minutes to answer this question. So you guys talk faster. All right, in our first world problem out here in Denton, or in Robson Ranch, for Robson residents, one of our biggest issues is traffic congestion on the Robson Ranch Road. What do you know about current plans and how will you address this issue?
So, great question. You'll definitely have to get a light up here, right? At 35 Robson Ranch Road. I've been out here a few times in the last couple of weeks and have been suffering through these traffic issues that y'all suffer with every day. I think a light at that intersection is going to be the biggest first step in helping. Obviously, you're getting new neighborhoods coming in with the Hunter Ranch development, and then the neighborhood across Robson Ranch from y'all. So I'm looking at widening those roads and figuring out how we can move more people, because obviously more people are coming into this space, and we need more ways to get it all moving.
This way?
Yep.
Okay.
To the right.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, for Robson residents, one of our biggest issues is traffic congestion on Robson Ranch Road. What do you know about current plans and how will you continue to address this issue?
It's a mess. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of it is about a TxDOT issue, but the city is working feverishly to try to work with our partners, TxDOT, with the county to figure out how in the world can we get a light there? How in the world, when are they going to start expanding the highway, expanding the service road? Because folks, let's face the reality. When Landmark is exploding, I mean, they're already building houses out there. HEB, you see it going. You know what the traffic's like around HEB just in general, even if it was probably out in the middle of nowhere, people are going to be coming. So we have to continue to work with our partners. We have to continue to move with them and to say, what do we need to do here? And the city is a player, but the city only can do so much. It's TxDOT, so we have to involve our state legislators. We have to involve the people on the city council, like Councilmember Jester, who's on the RTC, which is a regional transportation committee, to help us solve that problem. But I will take one place of solace. The developer of Landmark is Hillwood. And I will say Hillwood, they're a powerful developer, and I believe that if anybody's going to be able to do it, they're going to want to, quickly as possible, get the ball rolling, because it will impact their development. If you're backed up at that light, even if there's a light, four-way stop for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20, 30, 40 cars back. So I think it's coming. I'd like to have a little bit more information or better information for you, but I can tell you everyone is working feverishly to make sure we resolve that problem.
No, it's going to be a real critical issue here, and you're going to hear the same answer out of all of us, partly because of the layout of where Robson Ranch is, and that a lot of the issues resolve around TxDOT control and the coming road and renovations along 35. And we do have a really great partner, John Polster at ITS Solutions, that represents both the county and the city, and so that synergy between the city and the county, where we speak with one voice to TxDOT, our regional TxDOT office, really helps us come in with Judge Eads and with whoever's mayor, whichever one of us will be mayor, and the rest of them. Shout out to Mayor Hudspeth out there in the audience, working with these groups to make sure that that common purpose is for the county and the city relate. I think there's an opportunity then for city to come in and talk about what modalities we want to support, and I don't mean to use that as a buzzword. What I mean is you have the ability to walk around your neighborhood. In this case, you have go-karts, that there are opportunities. So you have different ways of transportation. I think we need to build some of those in. And one thing I will point out, and Chris mentioned Hillwood, they're going to build a rain road around on the new development, and that will help drain traffic away from 35 in between your neighborhood and Hillwood, and that'll help relieve some of the tension and pressure so that you're able to get to those areas easier.
I'm sorry, Angela, have you answered that question? You did, okay. And, this will be to Mr. Watts first. Sorry.
Yes.
Been a long day. I'm going to actually combine two questions dealing with affordable housing and economic development. So, Denton continues to face rising housing costs and increasing homelessness. So how will you make Denton affordable? But in that answer, I want you to include part of making Denton affordable is getting in good businesses with good salaries. So if I can combine those questions, how will you make Denton affordable and at the same time, to that effort, bring in good businesses with good paying jobs?
I've got a minute and a half to answer that. I could spend a minute and a half on each one of those. Okay. Well, I think when we talk about affordability, you got to break it down into two categories. One is home purchases. People who are buying homes, are homes affordable? And then you also have to talk about affordable rents, people who actually rent. Right now, affordable rents are actually dropping a little because of the proliferation of apartments. I mean, over the last 5 or 6 years, there's probably been over 6,000 to 7,000 units that have come online. But a lot of us talk about affordability from the end of costs. Let's save costs, let's cut expenses. But I would say what we can do a better job at, and I think would provide a much more traction to solving that issue, is bringing better paying jobs. We don't want to just focus on saving money, trying to keep costs at the minimum. What if we brought in jobs that help people improve their standard of living? That it provided them an opportunity to make more than just a living wage. We hear that, living wage. A living wage for some is $20 an hour. That's $40,000 a year. That's tough. That's tough. So I think the more we can bring in good economic development, like they did with Novartis, and that is they're bringing in 150 jobs, probably 100,000 plus in salary. We can use that as a catalyst for our medical biological campus. So it's a very complicated issue. And as far as the homeless, the unsheltered, we've made some changes last summer that are really helping us hone in and be more specific about how can we truly help them get into housing and become more self-sustaining. I mean, that's, yeah, okay, I'm done.
To you, Mr. Beck, as best you can in a minute and a half, combine how do we make housing affordable and how do we bring in good paying jobs and businesses?
Well, I'll do my best to springboard off some of what Chris said to save some time, because he's right. We did make some changes in the last council, where one of the things we noticed was that the Dallas area median income is about $27,000 more than the Denton area median income, and so when we crunched the numbers and looked at the data, we kind of figured out that we were giving away tax credits, which y'all pay your taxes. We're all paying our taxes, and we were giving away tax credits for 80% affordability metrics, and that's essentially market rate for Denton. And we are, as Chris was alluding to, kind of saturated. Somebody else talked about apartment complexes. We don't need market rate apartments. That's not where our need is. Our need is affordable and compatible with missing middle in the center parts of town. So we now only approve tax credits for 30% and 50% affordability. This will help, that deeply affordable will help unhoused and Alice households be stable. And one of the other things I think we can work on is in terms of, and I'll just springboard off something Chris said, we had a program at the landfill to provide jobs for the unhoused, and we expanded that to a program at the animal shelter to provide jobs for the unhoused. And I think there's an opportunity to build a brand new sort of version of the Ambassadors program to sort of work on our various commercial areas that provide employment for the unhoused, to bring them up out of the unhoused so they're not needed at the shelter, and they can go back to being an Alice household again. God, there's no time.
Yeah, there's not. I apologize. Ms. Brewer, as best you can, combine how we make Denton affordable with bringing in good paying jobs and wages.
The reason the question is so hard to answer in 90 seconds is because it wraps up all of the most crucial issues going on in this particular year, in this particular election year. So on the housing development side of things, I think Brian's absolutely right that we're missing the middle right now, and we really need more opportunities for folks to buy homes in Denton. We're at about 52% of single-family homes in Denton are actually rental properties. They're not for sale, which is an astonishing number. So when families like mine, I have a house we share with my parents, and so we were looking for a house, and it's almost impossible to find something that's available for sale because there's so much rental property. So I'm really interested in attracting developers to do starter home neighborhoods in Denton so that people can get into an affordable house for a family and start building that neighborhood spirit through ownership and all of the assets that home ownership brings. I'm also really interested in medium density housing as far as duplexes and townhomes that are also for purchase. We've had a lot of medium density come into Denton that is all for rent. None of it is ownership opportunity, and so I'd like to see that style of development come in for the ability to buy. On the economic development side of things, I'm running out of time, I'm really interested in us not just looking through the outside drawing companies in, but really interested in leaning into our assets that we have in Denton and developing economically internally. So, for example, we are a highly creative community. Let's find ways to develop economy around our creativity. Things like the drone program at UNT, we can lean in on that and try and develop around that.
Mr. Beck, you'll be next, and I thank you guys very much for doing that in a minute and a half. You did outstanding. Took me longer to formulate the question. A recent ballot proposition, and in fact this was on the Denton ballot about a year ago, suggested that Texas should legalize cannabis for adults and should expunge low-level cannabis offenses. Where do you stand on this?
I'll start off with a glib answer, and it almost doesn't matter where I stand on this. When 72% of the voters decide on the thing, then that's what you should do. This is democracy. We represent y'all. And in fact, the 2 precincts here in Robson, that ballot proposition passed. So whether I agree with cannabis use or don't agree with cannabis use, the people of Denton spoke, and they said that that's what they want to try, is to implement that sort of daylight in between city ordinances and state policy. Then it's incumbent on us as your representative to follow your dictates. That's sort of what we should do. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with it. I don't partake, but if y'all want to, go for it. That's fine with me, but again, it doesn't really matter. The democracy was really, really clear on this issue.
Thank you.
So I support the legalization of marijuana for recreational use for adults. I don't really think it's a big problem compared to like alcohol, so I would put the same rules in place for selling legal cannabis in Texas. Unfortunately, right now, our state's not there, and so as a local community, we cannot make those changes. We did try, and like Brian said, 72% of people in our voting area wanted to decriminalize, and so not arrest people for possession of marijuana, but we can't do that. The court's been very clear. We cannot change our rules in Denton because the state law prevails. So while I am a proponent of our state changing the laws around that, there's nothing much we can do at the local level right now.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Another recent ballot proposition, and this also appeared on a Denton proposition ballot about a year ago, suggested that Texas should legalize cannabis for adults and should expunge low-level cannabis offenses. Where do you stand on this?
Well, there's a process in place. Clearly, the voters voted to put that on city ordinances. And then the council, the city got sued by Attorney General Paxton because alleging that it violated state law. And the council fought it. I was on the council at the time. We wanted to see what the courts would say because we knew we needed to represent the community as much as we could. And so went through the process. At some point, there was some decision. It was when I wasn't on council to either remove the ordinance or something to where the lawsuit was dropped. But really, this issue has been settled. The Supreme Court in December refused to hear an appeal from the city of Austin in December of 2025 because the appeals court in Austin said your ordinance is unconstitutional and it violates state law. It is very similar to ours. So right now, it's a dead issue legally. And as far as expungement, I think it's good to give people an opportunity who make, I don't even know if to get caught, make a mistake, whatever you want to call it, to where something doesn't ruin their lives for the rest of their life. So I think our court system, our municipal court judge, really takes into consideration all the facts and provides opportunities for people to do the right thing, to say, okay, I made a decision, I probably would not make the same again, given the rules that we have in place. And fortunately, people get some compassion and some relief and don't have their whole lives impacted by a split-second decision.
Thank you, Ms. Brewer. The next question will be for you. Denton has approved some data centers which consume a lot of electricity and water. Do you favor or oppose adding additional data centers within Denton?
Actually, I'll need all my time on this. I'm absolutely opposed to any new data centers in Denton.
Thank you for giving us the time.
Can I take the rest of her time?
No, sir.
In silence? Okay, all right. I'm just checking. I've gone on record in previous forums saying that I would ask for a moratorium on future data centers, and if and until we have an opportunity to see if the ones that we've passed actually perform the way they say they're going to perform. I mean, they say there's a lot of money that's going to be made. I mean, up to $20 million extra a year. The problem with the data centers is they use as much one of them uses as much electricity as the entire city of Denton. Think about that. They use as much electricity as the entire city of Denton. And right now, people are scrambling to try and figure out, okay, how are we going to do that? Is it going to cost us any more? What about the water usage? So they're already here. We've got to do the best we can to mitigate any problems that they have. And also, if they do perform, we've got to figure out how to use that revenue in the most efficient way to help. But as far as for now, I would say, look, let's make sure we have a track record and a history of something that's been proposed to us, that's now being constructed, and they haven't performed up to this point as they had said they would. In fact, the first one that was approved back in I think early 2021 or something, it went bankrupt when it was crypto mining. So there's still a lot of questions out, and it's just good to wait and see. We now have an opportunity to see if they're going to perform. We certainly shouldn't step back into something that there's still an unknown, because if it hurts us, it's really going to hurt us. I mean, when you're talking about using as much electricity as we do in the city.
No, I appreciate the question. It's really important in this moment in time, especially when we talk about the impacts on our various utilities. And I just got back from the National League of Cities in Washington, D.C., working on the city's behalf. And one of the things there that it was really clear that all the regional experts across the United States are dealing with this issue of what is the appropriate role and place of a legal business, and how do we juggle the needs of electrical utilities, water, noise ordinances. And so the community, not just here in Denton, but across the United States, it's completely appropriate that you worry about how noisy they are, what their power consumption is, how much water they use, what their impacts are on land use. We see it coming down in Grand Prairie and Garland and other areas across the United States, out in the Panhandle. And so one of the things that, full disclosure, I work for UT Austin's data center, and as part of my professorial role. And one of the things that gave me, we have a solar-powered supercomputer at UT Austin. And that told me, that set of established guidelines that you don't have to have just red flags of bad businesses hurting the community. You can set positive standards. So our local data centers, and I don't think we need more of them, but if they're going to come here, they need to follow good rules. They need to use recirculated water. They need to match noise ordinances so they're not impacting surrounding communities. And I'm out of time, but I think there's a path forward that sets a good standard and allows them to be an effective business. I forget who's next, Tom.
Let's see here. I believe Mr. Watts is next.
Yes.
Hang on one second. Is Caleb Meese here? Good. We have more time for more questions here. And we'll have less time for the city council because one of them is not here. Okay. Another recent ballot proposition was to prohibit Sharia law. Do you agree or disagree? And what will you do to support your position?
Question of clarification, ballot initiative, what ballot was that on? Do
It
you,
was on, it was a Republican proposition.
Okay, on the primary.
Yeah.
All right. Could you repeat the question? I'm stuck on
Sure.
trying to figure out what ballot process.
No. A recent Republican ballot proposition was to prohibit Sharia law. Do you agree or disagree, and what will you do to support your position?
Well, I don't think it's about agreeing or disagreeing, because Sharia law is not prohibited in the United States. I mean, we have a set of laws and the rule of law, which is the United States Constitution, and the federal government laws, the state laws, the county. And those are the laws that everything's interpreted by. So, certainly, and plus we have freedom of religion to practice your faith here in this country. However, when that practice begins to break laws within the community, we have a natural process in order to resolve that. So if people want to conduct their lives, they want to execute contracts, they want to do certain things based upon their principles or rules or commitments to their faith, I'd say okay. But as soon as it crosses the law, as soon as it is something that is against the law, then we have a remedy for that. One example is if someone executes a contract based upon the principles in their mind and in their faith of Sharia law as it's described. If it's a valid contract, and if there's a dispute and they go before the court's going to look to U.S. law, contract case law that's well settled in the United States. They're going to look at state law. So I'm not quite sure of what... We have a set of rules of law here. So I hear that some people may subject themselves to those principles, but when it comes to the rule of law, we have a rule of law, and that is the United States Constitution, and it's the laws of the federal government, and it's the laws of the state and of the county and the ordinances. So if there's a discrepancy or a conflict, U.S. law prevails.
Hopefully I'm able to give Tom back some of his time, because Chris, I'm just going to give you, take a moment and say, that's a really great answer, and Chris and I are really well aligned on his answer. We already have the rule of law for this country. The Constitution is the rule of law. The laws of the state of Texas are the laws that we follow. If to the extent that your particular credo and religious faith aligns or doesn't align, what wins out are those laws that we've all agreed on in our democratic process at the city, county, state, federal levels, and ultimately the Constitution rules out. So, as long as you're not in conflict with any of our existing principles, then you can do and call, and you have the freedom to do whatever you want. So, honestly, Chris's answer was much better than what I just said, so I give him a little credit.
Angela, can you do better?
I don't think I can do better. I do want to add one thing. I absolutely agree with both the gentlemen on the stage with me that the U.S. Constitution, the laws of Texas, they are our laws. That's what we function with in our interactions. Like we said, we have the freedom of religion to practice however we want to. So if someone is doing Sharia law in their own home, then have at it, man. That's your deal. But it's certainly nothing that we could hold one another obligated to. The other thing that I would add is I think we are already protected against this by the U.S. Constitution, because our Constitution in the First Amendment clearly says that our government will not establish a religion, and we're not operating our law through religious principles. So I don't think we have much to fear for this really coming into practice. I understand concern around it, but I don't think that there is real fear there.
Thank you. Now we're coming to our final question. You guys have done so good with 2 minutes. We'll start with Mr. Beck. You now have 2 minutes for your final appeal or rebuttal. And please tell us why we should vote for you versus your opponent.
No, I really appreciate that everyone gave us the opportunity to highlight the concerns that they have for the upcoming mayoralship, our different approaches. That's really important, that engaging in that dialogue, that conversation is something that, again, as I opened up with, that I always pride myself on. There'll be issues that we agree on, we don't agree on, but having that conversation and finding that commonality is really, really important. It's why I've always prided myself on coming down here to Robson. I am going to be focused on sort of 4 major principles. If you elect me as mayor, affordability, infrastructure, creativity, and innovation. I think we've covered a lot of the questions on affordability earlier. I mentioned I'm really focused on utilities because that affects all businesses, residents, especially out here in Robson. I think there's some opportunities to fast track some pre-approval, especially if we're missing middle housing that we talked about here on the dais. And another thing that I think that I'd love to see if we could get into is just recognizing that for the county and the city, for the unhoused population, I think we could follow something more like something that advocated by the Denton County Homeless Leadership Team that Chris started when he was mayor, and United Way, and that is work on a hub and spoke model. We're already doing the hard work on the unhoused. I think we just need to recognize that and not leave money on the table at the county, state, and federal level. I'll be focusing on infrastructure so that you understand what's coming when we rebuild your roads and utilities. Communication of that will be really important. And I think in terms of innovation, we really need to focus on our training, workforce pipelines, and some innovation hubs working with leveraging UNT, TWU, LaGrone, and NCTC to have training and career opportunities so that you can have local opportunities to start and form a career here in Denton, stay in Denton, and advance your career in Denton. Backfordenton.com, I really would appreciate your vote.
Thanks. I started at the beginning of this evening talking about my expertise comes out of communication and really looking at the dysfunctional system our city has been running under for the last few years and wanting to use my gifts to address that. I am a real person. I have a regular old family. We're multi-generational in my house, so my parents, my child, my husband, and I are sharing a home, and we work on our family budget together, and we have to pinch pennies sometimes, and we have to work out carpool, because my husband and I were a one-car family, and so we have to figure out sometimes Grandpa has to go pick the kid up from school because somebody else has to be out with our car. I want to bring that kind of a perspective to our city council. The other thing that I really am interested in focusing on is listening. It's one of the communication skills that I teach about a lot. It's the thing that I think we've been missing most in our city council, that we have folks who just aren't interested in hearing what the people didn't have to say. I have to say, running for mayor over the last few months has been the most fun I've ever had in politics, because I get to talk to people about Denton all day long and hear why they love our city so much and hear their ideas about how we can make it better. And those are the conversations that I want to continue as mayor. There's not a problem going on in Denton, Texas right now that the people of Denton don't have the solution for. The problem we've had is that nobody's been listening to the people of Denton. That's what I want to change on the city council. That's why I want to be your mayor. In order to do that, I'm going to have 6 town halls a year. So I think in the odd months, so we're not meeting in Christmas, so probably in the odd months, we'll be having a mayor's town hall every other month to really get feedback. I'm also interested in increasing opportunities for people to engage with the city that isn't at a meeting, because lots and lots of folks in our town just can't come to these kinds of things. And so getting some different opportunities for engagement and feedback and really having everyone's voice heard, including all of the people of Denton in our future.
That music sort of reminds me of Seinfeld show, but I digress, I'm sorry. My name is Chris Watts, I'm running for mayor. My website is chriswattsdenton.com. I could go through my track record, go look at it. It's pretty extensive, it's very comprehensive, go look at it. I'm going to let the voters decide who's best to serve you, but I'm going to tell you why I would do a good job as mayor. Number one, I've done it before. I've sat in that chair, and it's not like sitting in any one of those other chairs on that dais. Even though we get the same vote, we have the same power, it's very different. And what I bring to the council, and what I bring to the city government, and what I bring to the community is the same thing that I brought years ago. And that is first a commitment to the best possible decisions that we can do for our community. I know what it's like to be housing insecure as a kid. I know what it's like to live in the station wagon with my brothers and my mom because she got beat up and we had to get out of the house. So I've had some lived experiences that you can see, and I could map for you in my service, both as a council member, as mayor, that comes from those lived experience. My initiative on homelessness that has grown into what we have today comes directly from that experience. My desire to provide the most affordable housing that we can afford. Look, folks, we have a missing middle in house purchases. The people that have the lowest incomes in our community are being left behind because we're not providing the affordable housing at those levels that in return for the millions of dollars that are being taken off the tax rolls to provide that affordable housing. So I'm the only one that's running for mayor that sat in that seat. And I'm just going to say, we did a pretty good job. I didn't do a good job. The team did a good job. But you need a leader who knows how to do that. You need a leader that's not just going to talk, but that's just going to take action. Go look at my website, chriswattsdenton.com, and take a look at what we were able to accomplish in those 6 years. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your vote.
All right, if you guys are stage right, take your notes so nobody can spy on you. If you use the water, please pick the water and maintain it as a souvenir of your participation. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. If the city council candidates that are here would please come forward. Here you go, Eric. You know who you are. You know what, actually, Jesse, if you come up, I almost forgot somebody. Jesse Davis is a former city council member, and before we get to the city council forum, we asked Jesse to spend 3 to 5 minutes to tell you just some observations of why it's important in local elections and a little insight into the city council. So Jesse, you got 3 minutes.
Thank you, Tom. I wanted you to notice that I'm standing right in front of the timekeeper, so I know exactly how long I have. Thank you all so much for having me out. It is so nice to be back at the ranch. Y'all got to see a lot of me when I represented you on the city council, and your leaders asked me to come and talk with you just a little bit tonight about why it's important to vote in these elections that you're hearing about tonight. I realize that I am a little bit I'm preaching to the choir, right? Y'all are here. Not all of your neighbors are here, but y'all are here to hear about these elections, hear about the candidates, and learn what you can. So here's my message tonight. One, to hear what I'm about to tell you about why these are important, but two, take that message back out to the streets. I know some of y'all are very involved, that's why you're here. I know some of y'all are block captains and you're involved in every election, some of you are election judges and clerks. I need you, your city needs you, to take what you heard tonight back out to your neighborhood, okay? Now, I can tell you, I'll start with saying something that I told you all 4 years that I represented on the city council. Even the time that I was out here as a candidate, you remember me saying, this is a Republican club. I'm a Republican running for an elected office, but this is not a Republican-Democrat issue. It is a competent, prepared, experienced, good for the job issue, because we live in a college town, right? There are parts of the city that are just never going to elect a Republican for city council, right? And we just know that's a fact. That's the demographics to it. But there are folks out there who have served us very well, regardless of the party they came from. They might have been more like JFK Democrats and not Joe Biden Democrats. But we have had good, competent Democrats. That is not what we have seen in Denton over the last 4 or 5 years. That is not a Republican-Democrat issue. That is a good for the job, suited for the office, looking out for the city kind of issue, and not what we've seen out of the council majority the last 5 years. The council majority has been focused on partisan politics. It's been focused on national agenda items. It's been focused on cannabis things, stuff that doesn't matter for the city of Denton because, like somebody might have pointed out back then, that was never legal for us to do in the first place. They are wasting your time and money on things that don't matter. Our city budget has almost doubled since I was first elected back in 2019. Where are those extra tax dollars going? The things that you see out here at Robson Ranch? The things that are helping Denton? No, We had a budget deficit last year because somehow we still needed more money after all of that. So y'all know those things. Y'all know that it's important to vote because of the tax rate. You know it's important to vote because of the streets and the utility rates and all those things that candidates have talked about. The thing I'm reminding you about tonight, the thing I really want you to take back to your neighborhood, is think about, just like Ronnie asked us all those years ago, are you better off today than you were back when I was first elected in 2019, when I was serving y'all in city council through COVID in 21, all through that time? Are you better off now than you were? And frankly, the city's not. It's just not. And you and your neighbors need to know that. You need to know that our budget is just about in shambles. You need to know that our roads have not substantially improved mile for mile. You need to know that one of the folks who sat up here on this dais a little while ago and told you how proud they were to be out here at Robson Ranch and so happy to be invited, told you your vote didn't matter when they redistricted you out of District 3 those years ago. And y'all are nodding your heads because you know that's not sour grapes. You know that 250 people showed up at City Hall and said, our votes do matter. We are Denton citizens too. And that dude who sat up here just a minute ago told you that you didn't matter. Remind your friends, remind your neighbors, these elections matter, not just because of the taxes and the utility rates. They matter because these are the folks who are making every single decision in the city. Some of them don't think you count.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm going to ask Ms. Jill Jester to stand up, please. She was going to speak, we just don't have time, and I apologize, Jill. Jill is running for City Council Place 6 unopposed. She'll be on your ballot, so give her your vote. Thank you, Jill. All right, now we move on to City Council members' duties and responsibilities. They create local laws and ordinances. They approve the city budget and set taxes. They oversee major spending and capital projects, appoint key administrators and board or commission members. They shape long-term planning for growth and infrastructure, represent residents through district or at-large engagement, and serve on committees that guide public areas. Both of the candidates that are up here today are running for place 5, which is an at-large position, so they will also be on your ballot. So Ms. Jester and these 2 candidates will be on the ballot. The salary is a whopping $33,000 a year. And with that, we'll go to our first question. So, in 2 minutes. What?
So sorry, I believe it's a $750 a month stipend for a council member and a $1,000 stipend for mayor. And I see Jill Jester nodding her head at me because we both said 33,000. No.
Oh, it's not even that. I'm sorry, I got it.
That's okay.
$750 city council website, so you might want to correct the website.
Step 1, update website.
Yeah. First question, in 2 minutes, tell us about yourself, why you're running, and what is your most important issue, and how you work to solve it.
Hi there. If you don't know me, my name is George Ferry. I am running for Denton City Council at large, place 5. I will be on everybody's ballots. I have lived here in Denton for 20 years. My husband here is a public school teacher, got married here. We bought our first house 4 years ago. I'm a licensed clinical social worker by training. Before that, I owned a wine bar on the downtown square. Before that, I was a professional dancer. So a very linear career. Everything made a lot of sense, step by step. What that's taught me and what I've learned along that way is we're in an affordability crisis. I was a renter for 16 years. Our roads are in severe disrepair. It took me 35 minutes to get here today, which I'm so glad I left really early. I have the knowledge and experience. I'm the current president of Denton Affordable Housing Corporation. We're a nonprofit development company. We own 96 scatter site units for families in this city. We also are breaking ground in November on an 84-unit permanent supportive housing complex for chronically unhoused people. So think of the 120 beds in our Daily Bread, pick up 2/3 plus of those individuals and put them in permanent supportive housing with wraparound built-in support services. That's what we're building, and it will lease in December of next year. I'm also on the Denton County Housing and Homelessness Leadership Team, and I'm currently the Vice President of our Denton County Homeless Coalition. So if you want to talk about housing and homelessness, I got you. That's my expertise. I bring that knowledge. I'm 38 years old. I just got announced DRC's Denton County Mental Health Professional and Men in Business awardee, and I just won Social Worker of the Year during Social Work Month last month across 5 counties from the National Association of Social Workers. I look forward to talking about my policy points and answering your questions. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Erica Garland, and I just want to start out by thanking you all for coming here tonight. It's so important, like Jesse said, that we stay informed. I'd love for you to just kind of know a little bit about myself. I have lived in Denton for over 16 years. I raised my 4 boys here. I built my career at the Denton Enterprise Airport. I currently work for a major airline. I do recruiting. So I'm interviewing, talking to people all day long, making difficult decisions. I've served on our Airport Advisory Board, and I currently serve on our Planning and Zoning Commission. While serving on our Planning and Zoning Commission, I have seen just how much decisions at the city level impact each and every one of us. It impacts our taxes, it impacts our neighborhoods, it impacts our community, it impacts each and every one of us. If you've been paying attention to what's been going on at the council level the last few years, you will see that there has been a lot of dysfunction. There's been a lot of disjointedness. There's been a lot of not getting along, and there's been a lot of not stuff getting done. And so that's why I'm running. I think that we really need people that are grounded and rooted in our community, that are serving for the right reasons, and that are really gonna step up and be a voice for our community, for our neighborhoods. And that you're gonna hear that through this campaign. There's so many people that just don't feel heard. They don't feel listened, they don't feel like council listens to them. We see all of these issues with growth and affordability and roads, and we just keep kind of scratching our heads like, why are we going in this direction? And so I think it's important that people are running for the right reasons, and that's what I'm here to do, is represent you and hopefully be your voice. Thank you.
Redirect to both of you, what is your number one issue and what will you do about it?
So I think I addressed it a little bit by saying we're in an affordability crisis. What are we doing to address affordable housing? What are we doing to break projects into smaller roads, specifically projects into smaller bids to give more people opportunities to complete projects in faster timelines? And I think that we need to address how small businesses are to survive. I had a business during COVID and had to close it, as did 40 others just in around the downtown Tours area. And since then, we've seen more businesses close. How are we going to incentivize new jobs and also help small businesses thrive?
And I will certainly echo, there are a lot of Dentonites that are struggling, and that goes into a lot of the decisions that we've made over the last couple years. I, like many, commute an hour back and forth to Dallas every single day to support my family, and that's where a lot of people are at. We see this growth, we see apartments, we see people moving to Denton, but where are the jobs? And not just jobs, not just high-paying jobs, but careers. And that's something that Denton has always struggled with. We've gotten this reputation for kind of being difficult to work with. And so we really need to change that. So when we talk about affordability, there's only so much that we can kind of affect when it comes to the cost of living, but what we can try to do is bring up all of the Denton residents so that they're making more money. Thank you.
I forgot who goes next. Who answered first? You did, okay.
It's okay.
Miss Garland, we just talked about that affordable housing. Part of that is attracting business. So part of the affordable housing issue is good paying jobs. How will you attract businesses that provide good paying jobs to make Denton, quote, affordable?
So I love this question. I kind of mentioned it in my intro. I was a single mom for several years. I struggled in Denton. I struggled not getting priced out of Denton. And a lot of people are dealing with that right now. One of the ideas that I kind of had, like I mentioned that I built my career at the Denton Enterprise Airport. I currently work for a major airline. Does everyone know we have an airport in Denton?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, in my opinion, one of our most underutilized economic drivers that we have. We have a really nice airport that at one time rivaled with Addison and McKinney and other kind of areas or neighborhoods that are comparable to Denton. What we have kind of done is we've attracted all of these flight schools out at the airport, which kind of makes sort of like a beehive. I'm sure they fly over Robson all the time. But what it doesn't do is provide sales tax revenue. Just like the universities, flight training is tax-free, sales tax-free. And so if we were kind of to pivot a little bit and maybe start attracting businesses that would bring aircraft manufacturing or aviation logistics. We have Peterbilt where we're putting 18-wheelers together. Why can't we put aircraft pieces and parts and airplanes together? These would be higher paying jobs. We have the entire west side of the airport that has never been built out. And the reason we've never built it out is because we don't have a road. And so we shouldn't be letting these sort of limitations like, oh, well, we can't build it out because we don't have a road to get there. Like, we really need to be intentional and strategic about the resources and the tools that we currently have and how to kind of grab that low-hanging fruit and develop what we already have going for us.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Part of affordable housing issue is good paying jobs. How will you attract businesses that provide good paying jobs to make Denton affordable?
So I think first and foremost, it's being intentional with the 3 colleges we have in our town and asking which degree programs have the most students that are prepped and ready to go into the field. What are those jobs that are needed to fill those seats, right? Is it engineering? Is it nursing? What about building a county hospital? We don't have one in the county. I wonder why we're not utilizing our current funding sources like catalyst grants or other opportunities to incentivize businesses to come. At the last forum we just had, Jill Jester pointed out very acutely that Peterbilt wanted to expand, and they weren't given an opportunity to do that in Denton. In the sense of McKinney gave them a better offer, so they moved the expansion to McKinney, and we lost out on hundreds of jobs being created, and that type of behavior has to stop. Just like Sally's Beauty's left, right? Why are we losing the headquarters in Denton to other cities when we have the opportunity to grow them here? And speaking of the airport, TWU now has an aviation program. My dear friend's daughter is in the first class ever to be in it. We have to be thinking forward about where our job force is being created in the 3 colleges we have. Also, building out some of the unused space in downtown. Tens of thousands of square feet of business space lay vacant in the tour zone alone. What if we had a test kitchen where someone could come in with a built-out kitchen, all the equipment, run a restaurant for a year, learn how to do their own books, be given an opportunity to make some money, take that money and go open a brick and mortar in Denton themselves? Why don't we have these types of pilot opportunities for micro enterprises and larger enterprises? They all are available to us and we have the money and the tools to do it. We're just not. Thanks.
Ms. Garland, back to our Robson Road issue. One of our biggest issues is traffic congestion on Robson Ranch roads. What do you know about current plans and how will you continue to address this issue? Okay, I'm sorry.
It's my turn, I'll go first. I don't want to keep going, you just went first. The question was about the Robson Ranch Road, is that correct? Okay.
What do you know about it and what will you continue to do to address the issue?
I know it's a continued issue. I think it stems from a lack of collaboration. I think there are a lot of examples where City Council maybe could do a better job talking to the county and talking to TxDOT. I think therein lies the cluster of communication breakdown, thus making things that people want. People go to council to say they want, but people are not seeing in actionable ways. I think that there's a need for council who not only listens, but is more engaged with the community to make those conversations and connect those dots to make things happen faster. Again, we have ample opportunity and a lot of great staff who could help get us faster answers. I think we're not collaborating well. There's a lot of breakdown in council. You've heard it earlier from my opponent who said that we bicker a lot and nothing feels like it's getting done. And I think this is another example of that, where a stoplight shouldn't take months upon months to be put in. It doesn't make sense to me and it's not fair to the taxpayers. Thanks.
I I would absolutely echo that sentiment. I think that there are a lot of distractions right now for our council members, and we've moved away from our core issues, which is safety, roads, the basic functions of our city. That's what council is supposed to be working on. So I think that to resolve the issue that you guys have experienced, it will take collaboration. It's, from my understanding, not just the city of Denton, but it's TxDOT, it's the county, it's Argyle. So you have to have people on council that know how to build relationships, are likable, strong communicators, anticipate the challenges that you guys are dealing with now. There's another one that we're talking about right now on P&Z on Sherman Drive, where all of this development is about to come in, and the road and the infrastructure is not in place. So I think that having those strong relationships, being able to reach out to your state rep and make a call to Austin when you need to. I think that as long as you're somebody that knows how to work well with others, you don't have to be the expert in roads or development or the smartest person in the room, but you do need to know who is and be able to approach that person, reach out to them, and them like you enough that they're willing to work with you and help you and pull those levers that they can.
Ms. Garland, to you. Texas Senate Bill 12 prohibits sexually oriented performances in the presence of minors. Do you agree or disagree with this, and how will you enforce or implement your position?
Do you mind repeating the question? I'm sorry.
Texas Senate Bill 12 prohibits sexually oriented performances in the presence of minors. Do you agree or disagree with this, and how will you enforce or implement your position?
Well, you said it in the question that Texas prohibits. So, as a mother of 4 boys, obviously I would prohibit that from my children. But if this is something that has gone to the point where the state has to become involved in what our children are influenced by or are viewing or seeing, then that kind of tells you that this is a big enough problem that the state had to step in. And so, absolutely, I would support what our state has decided. And yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Sure. Texas Senate Bill 12 prohibits sexually oriented performances in the presence of minors. Do you agree or disagree with this, and how will you enforce or implement your position?
I agree that sexually explicit material should not be in front or presented to minors, 100%. I also know that SB 12 specifically, which was passed in 2023, but did not go into effect until December of last year, because the 5th Court of Appeals is the one that released it to be enforced. It's still being litigated to this day. And I think the language of the bill is incredibly vague. I say all of that just to provide a nugget of education, that sometimes bills say something, but they're not very actionable, they don't have teeth to them. I think that as someone who's been a district level social worker over high schools and middle schools, I would like to see better protections for children in our laws, absolutely. But again, like my opponent said, we are bound by what the state says and what the state wants, and we have to follow that law. And also, again, reiterating, sexually explicit material in front of minors, no. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're right out of time for the forum, so we're going to jump to the last question. You now have 2 minutes for your final appeal or rebuttals, and please tell us why we should vote for you versus your opponent.
Hello again, George Ferry, running for Denton City Council at Large Place 5. You should vote for me because, as I said in the beginning, I am wanting to fix the affordability crisis in our town. What does that look like? That means that City Council, which does have power, right? Power that you give with the wants you have that drive what we do, which I think is step 1, that what needs to be fixed. We need to listen a lot more, is to utilize our ordinances. Infrastructure first. Growth should pay for growth. We have to stop saddling taxpayers with these large sprawl expansions. It's not fair, and also it's inequitable. I think also collaboration is key. As a social worker, I have navigated resources for hundreds of families within the school year that are on my caseload every day. partnering with 40 different agencies across the county, trying to get people housed, get their water bill paid, get them signed up for Medicaid, you name it, I have done it. I've served on 12 boards in the last 17 years. One is the Parks Board for the last 6. And I've been the chair for 3. I've been in the community doing the work. That's why I'm running. I'm continuing this passion to say, you need a council member that has a spine and that stands up and says what needs to be said and listens to people and gets them what they want and gets the job done. That's why I'm running. Again, GeorgeForDenton.com, George Ferry, Denton City Council at large, place 5.
Do you mind repeating the question one more time?
Well, let me get back to it. You now have 2 minutes for your final appeal or rebuttals, and please tell us why we should vote for you versus your opponent.
I would love for you to vote for me. I ran for this exact seat about 2 years ago, and I know many of you have already heard me tell this story, but I lost by just 83 votes against the incumbent. So I was so close. After that happened, I was appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission, where current council fought me for a year to keep me off of council, keep me off of planning and zoning, because they didn't want me to pick up steam and come back and rerun against my former opponent, not George, the other one, because they knew I would beat him. And so that's the disjointed, hateful rhetoric that we have seen on council the last couple of years. I'm a single mom, I've raised 4 boys, I'm a resident, I'm a taxpayer, I'm a homeowner. I want a seat at the table. And when you have 4 people on council that for an entire year vote against someone like me because they don't want me to have a seat at the table, that's when we've gone too far. I will tell you, I am a fighter, and nobody's gonna tell me I can't sit at the table. And so, as much as I'm a fighter for myself and my neighborhood and my community, I'm a fighter for you. It is time that regular, everyday people have a seat at our table and decide how Denton grows and what we grow into. We've got to stop with the partisan bullying, the political retaliation, and kind of the nonsense that we've seen over the last couple of years. I think that council should be somebody that represents everyone, that listens to everyone. And so that's what I want to be. I want to be someone that listens to you. I don't care what side of the aisle you sit on politically. I don't care what side of town you live in. This is an at-large seat. I want to hear from you. I want your support, and I want your vote. So it's Erica Garland, and I look forward to seeing you guys on May 2nd. Thank you.
For those of you that stuck it out, thank you very much. Again, I thank all the candidates both for stepping up to run for election and participating in our forum tonight. And I apologize to them for the 1.5 minute answers to 3-minute questions. Real quick, just what's coming up on the calendar. Wednesday, April 29th, we'll have a county commissioner forum of the 2 runoff candidates for our county commissioner. On May 5th, our next general meeting says resisting local threats. Verbally, I'm going to tell you the threat is Sharia law. And we're going to have somebody here that's going to speak to us about that. And it's a bigger threat than you could imagine. And enough said. Our next meeting is to be determined. I want to point your attention to Monday, June 29th. There's a golf tournament supporting the Denton County Republican Party. And finally, on Saturday, July 4th, we will release John Romeo's Best Ever Float and have the Best Ever 4th of July parade. Thank you very much for your attendance tonight. God bless.